Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. It is Saturday night, April the 12th for me right now. This will be going up on its usual time on Sunday. I hope everybody's had a great week. I have certainly had one. It's been very productive. Maybe not so much in the video creation department. I've been just barely keeping up with the videos, but it's been productive in other ways. You've probably noticed by now, I had my first collab with guys on the server, on the LCM server, Livecraft Mine. My second collab ever, and that was a lot of fun. It was also exhausting. I'll be completely honest with you. I was live streaming the whole thing, which is why I noticed this in the editing, and there's not much you can do after you've already recorded, but the first half of that, or the first 30 minutes of that video, was what I recorded from the live stream, so it was recording from OBS, and then the last 10 minutes was straight from Fraps, because I logged in this morning and did it, and you can see the quality difference right away from between OBS and Fraps there. And I think that is just more of my settings than anything else. Also, I did what I normally do for Minecraft videos, and I increased the brightness slightly. And I do that occasionally on Cube World here too. If you ever actually watch the videos here when it's dark out in the Cube World, it gets very dark in the video, so I end up increasing the brightness. So sometimes you'll see that happening, and that's because I edited that in. And I do that because YouTube, there's two things that YouTube does when you upload a video. It re-encodes your video, and it seems to do two things for most videos. One is it decreases the brightness, or it pulls some of the colors out at the very least. And two is it tends to make things quieter. So that's why lately I've been trying to compensate. I've been compensating for the brightness thing for a long time. Lately I've been trying to compensate for the quietness factor. I'm trying to get it to a point where, and I think I've mentioned this before, I'm trying to have it so that you only have to move the slider bar a third of the way across the YouTube video to be able to hear me well, which seems to be the happy medium that a lot of YouTubers are at. The problem is trying to get that to be consistent is my issue right now. A lot of times what will happen is there will be a loud noise either from my voice or from something else in the video or in my audio track, and I run my audio through several different passes, equalization, compression, all that stuff. And sometimes when the compressor gets around it, it sees those peaks and it doesn't go much further because it doesn't want them to peak out on you. So you end up getting a video or audio that is quieter sounding than your other audio, just because there happened to be a peak along the way. And smoothing out those peaks can sometimes take something away from the audio, which is why occasionally some of my videos are a little bit quieter than others. I'm certainly not shouting into the microphone at all, so that's always a good thing. I'm starting from a good point. I may not necessarily get to a good point at the end of the editing, but at the very least, I'm keeping it consistent from that point perspective, I should say. But yeah, getting back to what I was doing last night, I was talking. I tweet back and forth with some of the guys on the server, and there was mention of doing a Wither fight, a Wither boss fight, and I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I did get a direct message from Fappy right beforehand. He's like, "Hey, we're all going to go take on the Wither. You want to jump on and join in?" And I was like, "Yep, certainly do." So I ended up. Friday's normally my streaming night anyway, so I figured, well, while I'm here, let me stream it and record it at the same time. And that was, I think 6 o'clock p.m. my time when that tweet came through, I ended up recording until I think I stopped live streaming around 12. So it was about, you know, maybe it was more like 11:30. I don't know. It was like 5.5 to 6 hours, I'd say. And I was exhausted, but I was exhilarated as well. Exhilarated enough that I actually sat there and went through the 4 hours of footage I recorded, because I actually stopped recording along the way because I forgot I was still recording, and actually went through all that last night, all that editing, and then just added in some stuff this morning. So I was actually up until almost 3 a.m. editing that stuff, and I wasn't sure whether or not the edits would come through well, because it is hard to go through 4 hours and pick out the spots that are interesting and fun, and also hold to the theme, to the pattern that was going on. But I think I did a fairly decent job. There are some slow points in there because we were all sort of, it's just a bunch of guys hanging around doing stuff. It's not like we're saying, oh, I got a 30-minute video to do here, so let's stay on track and stay on target. It was more like, hey, let's just hang out and have some fun. So there's a lot of dead air and all that stuff that you have to end up editing. A lot of the other guys just focused entirely on the Wither fight itself. I kind of like the fact that I continued recording even though I forgot that I was recording. It actually worked out well because you got to see some of the banter between us guys, which is, we're all fairly easy to get along with, it seems like. And you got to see some of that banter between us, and also got to see some of the thought process behind what we were building on the server. So I enjoyed that thoroughly, which is why I'm talking about it yet again here. And I'm hoping that in the future we can do some more stuff. It's very difficult. The time zones that we're all in are make it kind of rough. I think Fappy and myself, I believe, are in the same time zone. But Chaffy Bean and Captain Tin are in UK time. So they're usually about 5 hours ahead of us, something to that effect. So a lot of times I'll see tweets about them doing stuff, and I'm still in work, and I'm like, well, I can't do anything right now. I am just on my lunch break at work, and I'm happy to look at tweets. So that makes it a little bit difficult to do the collabs, but I'm hoping that we can figure something out. Because I did enjoy my time there. And along that same note, so as far as my schedule goes, this week the schedule was a little bit, well, it was more normal than it was the week before when we had April Fools and all that stuff. So the only thing that was abnormal was because I was up so late last night. And because I wasn't planning on jumping on the server right then and there, I was planning on actually recording something and then jumping on the server, so I'd have something ready to go to edit wise today. I didn't get that opportunity, which is not a big deal. I still had the actual special Livecraft Mine episode to edit, and I did that and put that up today. And then right after this, I'll probably be putting up another video. I don't know which one yet. I have a couple that are already up there, so I might just make one of them public, like out there, or I don't have any FTL done yet. I only had the one episode, so I have to record some of that, record some pub crawl. Got a few more things I gotta do tonight. So I have stuff to edit for tomorrow. I try not to do too much recording on Sunday because I have to do normal, everyday household things like actually buy food and stuff. Or I'll be very hungry for the rest of the week. So that is so the schedule this week is going to be a little bit off again as well, because Ethereum is set to be released on Tuesday, the 15th, and I already have an episode recorded. I intended to record some more, so just so I have a couple episodes ready to go. But I have not had the opportunity to do it, so it's only the one episode that I have right now. Not a big deal. It is going to be part of the normal rotation, though. So I'm kind of up against a little bit of a wall, though, a little bit of a time crunch, because there's a lot of things I want to do. So, and I've had up to this point a schedule, and I'm going to try to keep to the schedule as much as I can, because I have so many series going on that it feels bad to neglect one for, to bump something out of its normal slot, because then it will probably go an entire week before, there'll be a 2-week break between episodes, which I don't really want to do, especially if it's a series that people really like. But it's harder and harder to prevent that from happening, with so many things going on, and there's so many things I want to dig into, and I'm one of those guys that just I need to have lots and lots of games that I'm playing, because it just keeps me interested in all of them, and it's again, it's a stress relief and everything else. I don't want to be just doing Minecraft or just doing something like that, because it after a while I burn out, and then I don't want to deal with it. Much like the FTB stuff, there was actually a thread on the Livecraft Mine subreddit asking what people were normally playing in, and I know that there's a lot of newbies that are on the server that I have not really seen in a while, and it's because they're all over on the FTB server, and I haven't been on there that much, mostly because I did the FTB stuff single player on a server, and I do want to do it again, but I did so much of it before that, and so much footage that I threw out, that I sort of burned out of the FTB a little bit, and I'm trying to just ease my way back into it a little bit at a time, plus all the other games that I have going on. So I don't want to have too much, as I've mentioned many times, I don't want to have too much Minecraft on my channel, but at the same time, I do want to play Minecraft. So it's always something that I come back to, just like Cube World. It's always something I come back to. It's something that I really enjoy, and I'm going to keep on doing it. I just need to balance myself out and make sure that I don't do too much of it, because I am that type of personality, and I can burn out easily. So that is the story with that. And again, there's so many games I have so many things that I want to do, so many games I want to play. So I have a ton of things. I wrote out my schedule in a spreadsheet just so I could actually see it for a change, and instead of just trying to remember it. And then I wrote out all the games around it that I still want to record and play. And there is no way to do it. There is no way to do it with my current schedule. Essentially, my current schedule has me, whenever possible, putting up 3 videos on Saturday, 3 videos on Sunday, spread out along the day, and then 1 video a day, Monday through Friday. That's really stretching it as much as I possibly can. I had thought, I was considering potentially doing like a morning and an evening releases during the week, but it's just not feasible for me, just because I'm up at 5 a.m. and I don't get home from work until 6 p.m. usually, which is why a lot of my stuff goes up 6:30, 7 o'clock Eastern time, and it's there is no easy way to do like, hey, I want to do 6 o'clock in the morning as well, because it's just, my mornings I'm not a morning person, and I need to I just cannot manage all that stuff so early on and still get into work and at a respectable time and workouts and all that stuff. It's too much. So I have to stick to what I have now. Plus the idea is, I also have to record all that stuff, which I could probably do given that I'm recording as much as I am. But it's probably wouldn't be as consistent as what I am right now. it's easier to do one video a day than it is to try to do 2 videos a day. And of course, I'm always worried about the spam factor, which is why on Saturdays and Sundays I've tried to spread it out to where I do one in the morning, usually 10 a.m., although I missed it this morning, and then in the afternoon, like 2 p.m., and then again at, say, 7 p.m. at nighttime, which I've I've missed already here as well. But I'll, even putting it out a little bit later than that's usually fine too. I just try to spread them out so I don't really spam people too much with the video on the video front. It's amazing that this time last year I was doing just 2 videos per weekend. One on Saturday, one on Sunday. It's pretty crazy. My speaking of which, July, I don't know the exact date. I think sometime during the time that I normally take off in July, which is right around the 4th of July. Sometime in July is my 1-year anniversary of doing YouTube stuff, which is crazy balls. It really is. It doesn't feel like a year, but then again, I started out the first couple months just doing 2 videos a week. So it hasn't been that long that I've been doing a video a day. So I think that's why it doesn't feel like it's been that long. But it has, and I'm almost at 200 videos actually. Very quickly reaching that point. And I do intend on doing like a little special video. Nothing too tremendous or crazy. It's just going to be more of a little montage. I guess that'd probably be the easiest thing to do. Although not easy from an editing standpoint, but easy from a I don't need to record anything extra standpoint necessarily. So that's the thing. I just have to. I'm thinking about it now early because I need to make mental notes to myself as to when things are going to happen and stuff's going to go down. And speaking of that, we'll jump over to some of the updates that I did not do last week. And I've got more updated information. We'll talk about some of the Kickstarter stuff that I've been following, that I've contributed to or otherwise. Plants Cube, that actually, it was the sandbox voxel-based 3D game, very similar to every sandbox voxel-based 3D game that you can think of, except with a twist. You bring in crafting and stuff like that, but it's you have these experts that have to teach you how to craft things, and there's more of an RPG focus on it. It's more of a cube world-ish focus on it, I guess, from that perspective. But everything's destructible, and you can travel to there's vehicles in the game. You can travel to other worlds that are also cubicle shaped, and things of that nature. They surpassed their funding by quite a lot. They were looking for $250,000, and they surpassed it. They're up to $310,708. Their campaign is over, but I believe you can still keep contributing to them via PayPal. I think there's links on their site and whatnot, so I will leave those around to their site. With that, we unlocked the additional language translations of the game at $300,000, and the Mac version. So those of you who play games on the Mac, you'll be able to play Plants Cube on a Mac. Another Kickstarter that completed successfully, Dragonfin Soup. I talked about this a little bit. It's a SNES style RPG game, very reminiscent of the SNES graphics and gameplay mechanics. The idea is to take sort of a grim look at old fairy tales. So the idea is that your main character, one of the main characters, is Little Red Riding Hood, only with a twist. So she's for instance, a raging alcoholic. and I'm using their words, not mine. So and then the whole world around her is sort of a kind of a take on all that. So that's cool. That is that just in the last few days of the campaign just blew away all my expectations. They ended up with $119,719 on their Kickstarter campaign, and there was 4,044 backers. They were originally looking for 24 grand, so they well surpassed it. And in so doing, a bunch of stretch goals were unlocked, almost all simultaneously. So they unlocked the sheep pet quest. Sheep are also a playable character in both the survival and labyrinth modes of the game. Playable skeletons in both survival and labyrinth mode. The Morgiana expansion, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Morgiana was from the tale of Arabian Nights, 10,000 Nights or whatever it was one of the characters from one of those tales. She's unlocked, as well as new magic and abilities. There's also a slime pet quest, so you can have slime as a pet once you run the quests for them. And a haunted mansion dungeon plus an ancient tech weapon set, which essentially includes lightsabers. So I hope you like lightsabers, because here's a game for lightsabers right here. That is, so they're continuing forward with all that, and that was a great success. So hopefully we get to see some nice, awesome stuff coming out of that. I was very impressed by what I saw video-wise, and also by the direction they're taking with it. So I'm hoping for good things there. Along those same lines, I just contributed to an ongoing Kickstarter called Pop-Up Dungeon. The game is called Pop-Up Dungeon. It's a roguelike RPG. It's a computer RPG, but it's done in a papercraft style. So all of your characters and all the sets and all the props look like papercraft stuff. You take fold paper together, and it's got drawings on it and all that stuff, and they're basically moving around a board like you would do for a Dungeons and Dragons board game, or Dungeons and Dragons pen and paper, I should say. Sort of that kind of deal, only in papercraft and not pewter figures. So, excuse me. It has a couple multiplayer modes, a hot seat mode, which I don't... I've heard the terminology before, but I don't know what it actually entails. And I forgot to look it up, to be honest with you. So there's hot seat mode, and then co-op, straight up co-op mode. And along the way, you have the ability to create abilities. So the idea behind the game is you're fighting an evil wizard. An evil wizard has come into your kingdom and turned you and many other people into papercraft. And the idea is that you're going to fight this wizard at his own game, and try to survive his various dungeons, procedurally generated dungeons, and or randomly generated. I'm not sure which one it is. It's either procedural or random. And along the way, there's the ability to create abilities for yourself. So there's ability cards, and there's also action points, right? So you have action points that you can spend to actually move your character around and all that stuff, and then on the board. And then you can also have the ability to craft cards that you can then use as abilities. And each of those abilities gives you some kind of magical ability, or some kind of buff or debuff, or whatever it may be. The interesting thing about that is you can, because you can craft your own, they sort of had to put a mechanic in there that's like, hey, we got to sort of force you. You can have these uber things that you've created, but we need to force upon you some negative effects. And that, because that's always the weird thing, right? It's like, hey, you have this ability to craft any ability you want in the game. You know, who's going to give themselves negative abilities, right? Unless you're really looking for a challenge, right? So I like what the game has done, and it said, like, look, you can create these uber awesome cards, but there's going to be some pretty nasty negative effects. In order to create those uber cards, you have to take on negative effects, and the greater the negative effect you take on, the greater the positive effect can be on the other side. Very interesting concept. I'm interested to see what that looks like, because that'd be kind of cool to play with. Because I'm not really a CCG gamer, you know what I mean, card collecting gamer. There are people that are like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just never been that appealing to me. For instance, Hearthstone. I see a lot of videos on Hearthstone, and it looks interesting, and I can see the appeal of it, you know, with the strategy and all. But it just, after a while, it would probably bore me to death. Just because I'm not. There's always that. It's like Magic the Gathering, right? You play it a little bit, but you never feel like you're ever really in control of the board, because you don't. If you're just, how can I phrase this? If you're just a casual gamer like me, and you don't put thousands of hours or hundreds of hours into something, everything feels like luck, right? So you pull out cards, your enemy pulls out cards, and you either are lucky or you're not. There's not a whole lot of time to put in to actually be quote unquote skilled, because in order to be skilled in those games, you kind of have to have seen all the cards and tried all the different combinations, or at least had those combinations used against you, and, you know, sort of be in tune to what's going on there. And I'm never really that immersed in it to be able to get that to that level. So that's sort of why they're not that appealing to me. But in this particular case, since it's not the focus is not on the cards are just there as a auxiliary thing to help out. I've been sort of interested in this one, and of course I've got that roguelike bug, right, where everything seems like a roguelike anymore, even when it's not. Apologies to the devs of ancient. What was it? Oh God, I can't remember the name of it now. Artifact of the Gods. Sorry, or the Artifact of Gods, I should say. I have it written down wrong on here. Apologies to them, because I think I called their game a roguelike, and it's probably not. But I've got roguelikes on the brain right now. So what else did they have? Oh, right. I was talking about the wizard that you're fighting. So win or lose, which in roguelikes more than likely lose, at the end of your run, you get the choice of three, like it's like a shell game, right? You get the choice of a charm that the wizard will give you that you can then use from that point forward in subsequent runs. And so that also gives it a little bit of a variability after you're done. Because one of the things that I've noticed with the roguelikes, and this happens, you know, with FTL and with, well, maybe not as much with FTL, but with Out There, it happens a lot, where once you have failed or even succeeded and you restart the game, you're back to square one. And there's not a whole, I mean, there is variability in that you could face different challenges along the way. You might, maybe this time around, fuel isn't as plentiful as it was before. Maybe you run into events that didn't happen the previous time, which is what makes the roguelikes interesting, right? It's that variability. But I kind of also like the way FTL, and maybe not the way FTL does it, but I like the idea that there's an additional layer of variability where you can start your next run, but you'll do it in a different ship. For instance, like in FTL, you can eventually unlock other ships, and then you can start your next run in a different ship. Even though there's also different events you might run into, you'll still probably run into some similar events that you ran into. But it's also, it makes the game, it adds more to the replayability, I feel like, of the game, right? It's not, you're not relying on the random events in the game only. You're also giving the player an ability to change some of that around by choosing their own fighters or their own ships. And I like that they're introducing that as well into the paper dungeons, because the charms basically introduce that, right? Because you can say, hey, I don't really like this charm, and just ditch it and try another one. Or you can get a really terrible charm and be stuck with it if you want to give yourself an extra challenge. Sort of like the skulls in Halo, in the Halo games. So that's awesome and terrific, and all those words that I continuously use far too often. Some more news. Tabletop Simulator. Haven't talked about that in a while. They just announced that they will be coming to Steam Early Access on the 18th, which is Friday, I believe, actually, this Friday coming up. So if you did not have an opportunity to get in on the Kickstarter, you should be able to get in on the Early Access Beta. And I have not actually done anything in Tabletop Simulator yet, because I'm sort of waiting for them to introduce the RPG module. And also I've got so many other things going on. But I at some point I would like to jump in there and see what it's like, see what the multiplayer is like. That might be something that I would do on a stream rather than a YouTube video, because that doesn't really seem to lend itself well to YouTube, unless I'm playing with somebody that I know and we're doing some RPG or something like that. So that would be, so that is some additional information from them. Also, Dungeon Rushers, I've talked about them a couple times. They have an Indiegogo going on. That's a again, it's the roguelike bug that I have. Basically very similar to you create dungeons, and then other players come through your dungeon and try to get to the end of it, and you try to get to the end of other people's dungeons. Top down, that kind of thing. They're struggling a bit, quite a bit actually. They only have 10 days left on their Indiegogo campaign, and they're only at $18,992 out of the $80,000 that they're looking for. So I don't know. The future's kind of bleak there for them as far as that crowdfunding goes. Perhaps they can still continue forward. I know there's been plenty of Kickstarter /Indiegogo /crowdfunding things that I have participated in that have continued, even though their crowdfunding was not successful. So hopefully this does not get them down, and 10 days, they still got almost 2 weeks left. So hopefully maybe they can get a good run going there and at the end and maybe hit their goal. So that is the roundup of all the various things I had. Crowdfunded things I've been following. I have a couple more things written down here. I just need to get a moment to flip the page. There we go. Oh yeah, I was talking about, and I mentioned this a little bit in my, let's move that around. There we go. I mentioned that a little bit in my last Soul Zero episode. There's a new alpha version of that out, 0.28. It adds into the mix a random map generation. And that's not, I think I might have said procedural generation at some point in my video, and that's not correct. It's really random map generation, because what it's doing is you can take the maps that are, you can continue to play on the maps that are already packaged in the game, right? Cydonia and on all those things. And you can still play on those, or you can play sort of I forget what he called it. It was like a radial landing thingamajigger or whatever. But basically it means that when you land on Mars, everything around wherever you land then gets randomly generated. So the terrain and whatnot. So if you wanted to just it's kind of like throwing it through a blender and just saying, okay, what am I going to get on the other side? The only problem is I have not updated to it yet, because it is not backwards compatible with what you currently have. So I wanted to finish up the map that I'm on. I'm on Cydonia right now. I wanted to finish that up first, and then go and upgrade to 0.28. What it will do is, even though the map itself won't load properly, you can always restart it, and it will, but it will keep the idea that you've unlocked certain things to get to the final mission. So if you get if you build the terraformer on 3 different maps, you unlock whatever the final map is, the final mission, if you will. So I'm still on track, on par to get that rolling. So I'm hoping that so I because of that I didn't want to upgrade until I got my second unlock there, so I could and then I can upgrade, and then we'll try out some of the new stuff. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad to see that is still being updated. It's fairly frequently. It's maybe once a month or so, which is good. It's consistent, and it's exciting to see. I mean, as I've probably mentioned a couple times before, I'm not big on the RTSs. Really not. There's only been a few real-time strategy games that I've actually enjoyed, and this is one of them. And it's a testament to the fact that you can get an audience in that is not normally the type of audience that would enjoy your game, and get them to enjoy it enough to just keep on playing it, well beyond when they probably would have if it were any other RTS game. So I mean, I've played not Civilization, but I played like Empire Earth in the past. I played what was that old one? The castles things. I forget the name of it. I played those, and Age of Empires. That's what it was. I played Age of Empires. I played Homeworld, which I actually enjoyed. I played it all the way through to the end. The only RTS to date that I played all the way through the end. Hopefully Soul Zero will be the second one. And StarCraft, the original StarCraft, I played through, I think, 3/4 of the Terran campaign, and I just got bored of it and I never went back to it. So again, my history with the RTSs is not is not one of pleasure. So the fact that I'm having so much fun with this should signify something. Anyway. Also, another update that I have on here, the Humble Bundle PC and Android 9. I talked about this last week. There's 2 days left on that, and by the time you hear this, probably 1 day. And they've added additional games that you can unlock if you pay more than the average, which I think the average is like $3.50 or something last time I looked. And the games that they added, the Shiva, Savant Ascent, and Cider Arcade. Don't know what any of these games are. I think the Shiva, I believe, is a point-and-click game, if I remember correctly. Savant Ascent, I don't know what that is. Same with the Cider Arcade. Cider Arcade looks like something that might be up my alley because it had a spaceship on the front. This is how I determine when things are up my alley. If it has a spaceship on the front, I'm probably going to enjoy it. Now you know. Any game devs listening to me, put a spaceship on the front of your game and I'll probably play it. Oh, I'm easy that way. I am easy that way. Speaking of spaceships, I just saw an update for a IndieDB game that I've been following called The Battle of Tau Ceti, or Tau Ceti, depending on which way you want to pronounce it. If you want to pronounce it the Star Trek way. They just released an alpha on it, which I downloaded. I haven't played it yet. I intend on playing it. It is a multiplayer, team-based space combat game, and yes, I just said that. I just pulled that right from their IndieDB page because so I have this problem. I try to get as much information as I can on these things before I talk about them. But for whatever reason, all the videos on IndieDB for the most part are on Vimeo. And for whatever reason, Vimeo decided that nobody on Linux machines can watch their videos. I mean, literally, it just crashes. Every time I try to watch a video from Vimeo on my Linux machine, it crashes. And I primarily use my Linux machine to surf the internet and do stuff because it is a little bit more secure than my Windows machine. Plus, my Windows machine is usually doing something else like rendering or just generally not being virus laden. And unfortunately, when it comes to like IndieDB stuff and people put it on Vimeo, it's like I have to switch over to the PC to watch the video, and it's just I couldn't be bothered today. So I don't know exactly what I'm getting into there. I'm just going based upon what was written on there, but it is a multiplayer team-based combat game where you can take on one-man fighters or up to six-man battleships. So it's all player. You can have 6 players on a battleship. You can jump into the turrets. You can be a gunner. All kinds of things. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Maybe do a video of it. We'll see. But I think that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next Sunday.